Hello friends and welcome back. Today I'm going to be making this 12 by 12 scrapbook page and it's going to be featuring my grandma and we're going to be using the Graphics 45 Bloom collection. This is my project number 2 for Country Craft Creations, and I'm also going to be making these flowers that you see here in the picture. And so if this is something you guys want to do, just kind of stick around and I will show you how I made it. So to get started, this is my focal page. And I also grabbed a little piece of cardboard that I have in the back that I'm going to kind of glue everything down to so that I have a nice sturdy surface. Let me zoom out here and give you a look-see. This is just me. Basically, I shopped my stash. So I went through, and I'll kind of go through some of this much closer later so that you can see everything that I've got here and give you some ideas on stuff you can use for your page. I've also got this little stencil. It's a Tim Holtz Alterations one. It's actually supposed to be for tags, but I'm going to use it for this. It's a nice little brick pattern. I also have my texture paste there, which is just the white opaque, and my little texture knife. I've also got a glitter duster with some rock candy glitter in it, and so let's just get started. I'm going to go ahead and place down my stencil, and I'm going to hold it in place with some washi tape because the washi tape will not stick to my paper and destroy it. So we're just going to tape this down, and then I'm going to take my texture paste there, and I'm not gonna, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I'm not gonna be super picky about where it goes because I don't want to have a perfect square there. I basically just want to smear it up and have a very uneven surface. So you'll see that I don't go edge to edge. I just kind of put it um, wherever it falls. I want those rough edges. I don't want any perfect lines anywhere. So now I'm just going to carefully peel it off. And then I'm going to flip over my stencil and do the same thing on the bottom. Just kind of picking a spot. I know I'm going to put my grandma kind of where it says a garden plants happiness is where the focal point of my picture is going to go. So also covered all of that with my glitter. So now here's where grandma's going to be. I need to put this aside and let it dry, but I'm just kind of showing you some of the elements that I kind of pulled out and I've had sitting around trying to figure out what I'm going to be using on this. So I cut out from chipboard, white chipboard, a little bird cage, and here's the dies that I used, caged bird and weathered clock, and those are both Tim Holtz. So I cut those out. I also went through all of my embellishments and picked out some metal pieces that I may or may not use. I ended up not using those, but it's just to give you an idea of how I get started. It's just to grab as many things as I think would go and would look real pretty, and then just have it all surrounding me so it gives me all inspiration on where I'm going to go next. I have a lot of flowers. I'm just showing you that I have a lot of flowers, but I'm going to make my own for this. So I'm going to be using the Tim Holtz Tattered Flowers for this one, and I'm going to show you how I make them. So I'm just going to do one on camera. The rest of them are all basically the same. I may have used different dies to cut out the layers, but they put together exactly the same way. I've got some flower centers. I've got some Perfect Pearls in Blue Smoke, which I put into my sprayer. I added some distilled water, shake it up, and ready to go. I've also got my Distress Oxide ink in Faded Blue Jean. And now I'm going to just bring out my little mat to keep me from making a mess, and we're going to lay out all of our flowers. I am going to speed through a lot of this because otherwise my flowers do take me a little bit of time to make, so I am going to speed this up, but I will keep it all in so that you can see the whole process. So I just start by putting down the faded jeans in the centers of just the blue ones. I'm going to leave the white ones by themselves, and then I'm going to take the Perfect Pearls, and like I said, that's Blue Smoke, and I'm just going to cover everything in Perfect Pearls. And that helps do two things. One, it activates the oxide, and two, gives a nice pretty shine to my flowers. And then once they're dry, now I'm going to show you how we put them together. So I make a hole in the middle of each one, and then I take a brad, and that brad is just a placeholder. And then I take the flower and I squish the bejeebers out of it. And I just go one layer after another, and I just keep putting them one on top of the other in the direction that in the order that they will go in when we're ready to actually put the flower together. And I just basically poke the hole, stick it in there, and then squish it all the way up and in to almost where it would kind of look like a rose, if you were to not unfold it. And I'm going to do this with all the pieces, but I will have to go back and do the last 3 over again because they're not going to get squished up enough because it got a little bit too big. But this is basically how I do all of my flowers, including the smaller ones. This is the biggest flower that's on my layout. So this one has more petals than the rest, but if you want a smaller flowers, then you obviously do um, less petals, I guess. And once it's all squished up, I'm going to take it out, unroll each piece, and set it off to the side. And these 3 right there are going to need to be done again, because see how now they're real squishy at the bottom and very well wrinkled? But those 3 at the top aren't wrinkled enough, so we're going to redo all 3 of those and really wrinkle them up good. And it helps that the paper is still somewhat damp, so that's why my fingers are covered in glitter. It's because it's still a little bit damp, which makes it really easy to work with. And it holds its shape pretty well once you do that. Now I'm just going to take this little stylus, and I'm just going to kind of roll through each one of the petals just to kind of bring them up so that they kind of curl inward. And I know I'm going kind of fast, but this is how I do it. If I left this at regular speed, this video would take forever. But you get the idea. So each one of these petals, you're going to go around the outsides just to kind of bring them in. You want to curl it up so that it makes that flower shape. And then as I get closer into the center, I'm going to do less with that stylet. Now I'm going to do the centers. So this is just a little flower die that I have. I think it's a CCC die, and it's supposed to be a flat flower, but I thought it looked really cute. If I glued them together, it made a neat flower center. So I have a little package off to the side I was just showing you where I've cut out tons of these. And I do that whenever I'm making my own flowers. I'll sit down and just have like a flower day where I just make tons of flowers. And so here's one of the little flower centers. This is what's going to hold my whole flower together. So I'm going to poke a hole right in the middle and feed the center of the flower through. And then there's that middle of your flower. And then you're just going to weave each one of your petals in the order that you want them to be in onto your flower. And each one of these, I put a little dab of glue in between each so that they would stay together. And then we're just going to start building our flower. So these ones, so Graphics 45 has some beautiful flowers. If you are not, don't have the dies or don't have the time or don't want to make your own, you can most definitely head over to the shop, Country Craft Creations. I'll leave the link below, and you can find tons of flowers there. She's got all kinds of stuff, primas and Graphics 45 and tons of beautiful flowers, and you can definitely find ones that will match any collection that you are doing. You don't have to make your own. I just really like to, because when you make your own flowers, you can, use the actual papers from the collection and make bigger flowers than what usually is available from the designer, and just kind of just do your own thing. And that's why I like making my own. So there's my little spiel on that. Now that we are done with this, now this little guy right here, you can take this and grab a stem and then your little green tape, and you can make flowers that you can like decorate your house with. It doesn't have to just be for flat projects like this, but since we don't need it for this, we're not going to use that. Now I'm going to get started on the base of my scrapbook page, and one of the things that I want to do is rip. So I want to have another brighter color behind it. So I'm just going to carefully kind of rip down the page in some strategically designated places. And then this is what's going to be behind each one of those rips. So right now I'm just going to be working on that piece of cardboard. And so what I'm going to do is figure out where I want to put all of these bright, beautiful pink papers behind it, where they're going to be seen. So I'm just going to start cutting up and then attaching it directly to the cardboard, the 12 by 12 cardboard piece. And it's just going to go behind each one of the rips. Now once I've finished doing that, I've also got some doilies, and now you could put ribbon back here, you could do whatever you want, or you could just leave it where it's at. But I wanted to add just a little bit of like lacy look to the corners there, so I'm going to add these little doily that I cut in half. And I'm just going to place them in the corners. I want one in each corner, but I don't want to put one behind everything, so I'm just going to kind of place them there. And then I'll trim them up. And then one of the other things, before you start putting things permanently on top of your project right now, you want to distress up your edges. So I'm going to take some tea dye. This is the, not the oxide, but just the regular distress ink. And I'm just going to go around each one of these edges, and I'm doing front and back because I plan on kind of rolling up some of these edges, so you'll see the back as well. So you don't want to have a nice bright shiny back when the front is all antiqued up. So this is how this is my technical tool here. Anything round, you could use a pencil, you could use anything just to kind of grab on, because this paper is really thick, so it's really hard to do it just with your fingers alone. It's easier to have a paintbrush. Anything you've got will work. You just kind of roll it up. And now we're going to attach this. My doilies are a little too bright, so I'm going to grab some tea dye and just kind of very quickly, lightly go over it just to kind of darken it up just a little bit. You can barely tell on the screen right now, but you can, in person you can tell. It was stark white. So now I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to use glue because I've got all these rough edges, and I want to have time to move my piece. So I'm using my art glitter glue. I'm just going to put it all along the back of this page, and then I'm going to line it up over my little areas that I wanted it, and then squish it down. Now we're going to get started placing our focal pieces, and this is a little scrap. I don't remember where I got it, but it's from an old church hymn book page. So I'm just going to rip the edges, and that's going to be the base for where I put my grandma's picture. And I also want some more of this bright pink color, so I'm going to trim down a piece for this. And then I'm going to roll some edges again using my technical tool there. These are cute little chopsticks. I think I got that in Seattle. Anyway, I'm going to distress up this pink piece with my distressor, and I have to do that over the trash can or make a big old mess. And now I'm just going to start layering up my pieces where I want them to go. And once I place this down, the back page didn't look like it was ready, so I needed to do a little bit more to it. So you'll see when I get to that point. I'm going to do a little bit more to that pink paper, but now I'm going to start placing down all my elements where I want them to go and kind of gluing them in place. So I'm going to place my clock up in the corner, and then I'm going to start just going to kind of stress up this back page a little bit because the focal page is got rips, so I thought this needed to be ripped as well, and then kind of turned and bent like the rest of them, just so it matched. So I'm just going to stress this up a little bit. And turn up the rest of my edges on the corners there because that didn't match. And I am going to pop this up. So I'm going to take some double-sided foam tape, and I'm going to pop that picture up there because it's kind of, I need to be able to put things underneath it. So I took this little corrugated piece of 12 by 12 paper and ripped it, and now Grandma's going to get popped up on top. Now I'm just going to start placing all my elements. So this is the tag that I made and showed the other day. I made 2 tags, and I was kind of fussing about which one it was going to be, and so I chose this one because I liked having that kind of like some natural elements in here because there's a lot of white. So I'm going to kind of speed this up so you can see. I left everything in, but I'm basically just placing down all of the little elements and placing all my flowers and my leaves. So I left it all in here so you could see the whole process, but it's just a matter of just figuring out where you want to put everything and then stuffing it behind. Now, one thing I will say is that on that corrugated paper, now that I've completely covered it up and you can't even see it, so I don't know why I bothered, you have to use something better than sticky tape behind it because as you can see, that blue flower just keeps trying to want to move all over the place. And the other thing I didn't notice when I was putting this together was that I'm starting to get a little off. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of moving in the wrong direction. So I'm going to have to balance that out later. But you can see that um, I don't think it really matters all that much if you get a little off center there, because you can always just bring in another element and put it down at the bottom and then just kind of straighten it out. Kind of feels like the more the merrier under here. So you can see what I'm doing with the leaves. Same thing, just using my stylus, and I didn't have a little embossing pad to do this on, so I just used a piece of fun foam. And now I'm going to put some of these flowers these are the pre-made flowers that I had in my stash, and I felt like we needed a little bit brighter colors in here, so I had quite a bit of white going on. I was in a white flower kick. So these little flowers here, I just cut the ends off and then I'm sticking them in, and then I had just one of these little white, they look like this, but I didn't want to use pink. I thought white was a better choice, so I put the only little white one I had left in there. And now I'm noticing that I'm crooked. So I'm going to start putting together the rest of my elements. So I'm going to put my little bird up in his cage, well, outside of his cage. And then I've got these little wooden um, butterflies and flowers. I'm not going to put the flowers on, but I am going to put all the butterflies on. I also have some little water droplets, pretty pink posh water droplets that I also placed kind of around the page, which you can see it in person, but then I realized when I was trying to show you, you couldn't really see it on camera. And then I took, there you go, see, I'm showing you, I don't think you can see little water droplets on there, but they're there. And now this is where I'm showing you that I messed up because it's kind of crooked, so I need to put something down at the bottom to try to balance it out a little bit. So that is how I fixed it. So here's another little chipboard element. So I've got the love chipboard element, that little, I don't know what that is, but it seemed to work on the bottom. And now I'm going to place it into my frame. So these frames are available pretty much, even I think even Target carries them now, so they're really easy to find, and they're not super expensive anymore. So this one happens to be, I think it's a Doris one. But there it is, it's all finished. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope that this gives you some ideas on ways that you can kind of put together some scrapbook pages and actually display them around the house instead of stuffing them in a book. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.